Good morning, everybody. Hang on, I'm going to hit live here on TikTok, and we are now live on TikTok too. Dylan,
Look at us figuring out technology, Larry. I love it.
good morning. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So, are you on your way out to Iowa, or what's the deal?
I am actually in Iowa City. I'm coming to you live from the Travel Lodge in Iowa City.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's a
So
beautiful
no,
thing.
it is Family Day here at the University of Iowa, and my
Oh,
family and I are
great.
joining my daughter at the game.
Yeah, your daughter's out there. That's right.
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
right. Well, have a lot of fun.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. You look you
Yeah.
you
So,
you look like you're broadcasting from the studio like normal. I seem to be the only one who's always moving around.
no, that's all right. Listen, uh, life happens, right?
Exactly. Exactly
Hey,
right.
so first of all, I just want to welcome everybody to our broadcast of the Real Estate Radio Show podcast. We're here every morning from 9 until 10. I almost said 7 till 10. That would be way
You
too
also said
long.
every morning, but let's just say that we're on every
No.
Saturday morning
Every Saturday morning,
because
9
I got a
till
schedule
10
to keep, my
a.m.
man.
But we are also going to be on Wednesday's hump day. And that's going to be either 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, but we'll drop a little thing on socials and let everybody know that.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
I like that we're broadcasting live on TikTok as well as elsewhere. So
Yeah, so we're on TikTok, but on TikTok they can only see me, unfortunately. So we're going to have about 4 viewers on there probably, but we'll figure that out. TikTok, what's up? Nice to see you. Hey, so like I said, every Saturday, 9 to 10 a.m., we're going to be here for the Real Estate Radio Show podcast. We'll be back on WCPT shortly, or another station in the Chicago metro area. Right now, we're all podcast. And so we're glad to have you guys here. This is 11/11. You know what that means, right, Dylan?
you know what? I don't know where you're going with this, but I want to wish all the veterans a happy Veterans Day. I'm sure that's exactly where you were going, wasn't it?
No, not actually, but yes, we absolutely want to wish all the veterans a happy Veterans Day and thank everybody for their service.
Absolutely.
A lot of crazy stuff going on in this world, and thank you for your service. That's the main thing. Um,
Absolutely.
no,
But that's
actually,
not where you were going with 11/11. So no.
11/11 is a number that signifies your highest spiritual frequency and your highest, like, you're at your highest level of creativity and in control of your future on that day more than any other day. That's
Wait,
11/11.
I didn't realize any of that. I thought that's where you were
Hey,
telling me
listen,
interest rates were going.
the real estate we're at 11%, everybody. No, the real estate therapist is here to put you in that state of zen, right? And 11/11 is the day to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Listen, we have a lot to talk about today. We're going to touch again on these class action lawsuits that are going on because I had a real life experience in the real estate biz, so to speak, in the last 2 days. And I'm going to prove to everybody out there why these class action lawsuits at the end of the day are probably going to change nothing. So we'll get into that in a little bit. Before we do, let's check out where we at with interest rates because we know they haven't really budged that much in the last week, right?
Right. No, you know what? We had a pretty flat week from an interest rate standpoint, Larry. So I would tell you that the market feels a little indecisive in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
And, it looked like early in the week we wanted to continue the little mini rally from the week before. Then some numbers weren't as favorable, and Powell spoke, and some other Fed speakers came out. And all of that basically means rates ended this week where they ended last week, which is 7.5 ish, probably a shade higher. Certainly not 8 like we were a couple weeks back, but
Hmm.
I don't think there's an imminent rally coming. But I also don't think that for now we're going appreciably higher anytime soon.
With interest rates?
Correct. I think we're going to be in this 7.5-ish range until something else kind of comes out from a news standpoint and happens that
Right.
tells us, hey, rates need to move. And that could be up or down. Like if I knew where the next move in rates was, I think I've said this 100 times,
You'd
I'd
be
be a
on an
retired
island
bond
somewhere.
trader and wouldn't do this job for a living.
Right. Well, like I said, my thought was I still think interest rates are gonna come down a bit by sometime this spring. I think we'll either still be right around 7.5, maybe a little bit lower. We're gonna see what happens. There's a lot going on in the world that can really just change everything about everything
Right.
if something turns the wrong way.
No,
So,
you're absolutely right, and I do think that that can go both ways, right? I think that that can be a situation where we see an increase in rates because we have a surprise, but also a decrease. And I think that uh, I hope you're right. I mean, we talked about this. I'm not advocating for higher rates. I see that the recipe for higher rates kind of exists, but we'll see.
yeah, yeah, we'll see what goes on, but, yeah, some interesting things I came across in the last, couple of days, just, reading, watching different podcasts, listening to different people, talking to different people in the industry. So, inventory is up less than a percent, 0.07%. But what percentage, and that's so there's about 568,000 homes active on the market right now,
I-
nationwide.
it's nothing if you have the number from a couple of years ago
Right,
during the
right. So
pandemic.
we know that inventory is still down, even though it ticked up slightly, 0.07%, 568,000 or so homes on the market. But what percentage of those homes do you think have had a price adjustment? Of those 567,000 homes, 68,000 homes, how many do you think have at this point gone through at least one price adjustment?
And by price adjustment, you mean reduction. Like, right? I
Well,
mean, that's where we're
trust me,
going
in
with
this
that.
business, I can't predict. Someone may say, "Hey, let's
All right.
raise our
I
price."
would say 20,
No.
I would say 20%.
Yeah, well, you're close. It's actually 39%.
Okay. Yeah, no,
39.
I I think, Larry, when you say that, what I hear is what I'm hearing when I talk to clients, and obviously we're talking to them. I'm talking to them from the mortgage side of things, which is financing the next place, and they're optimistically looking at what they're going to net so that they can buy the next place. I had a client, eh, not to, so they're over optimistically looking at the next place. I have a client who put his house on the market in the Clarendon Hills, Illinois area earlier this summer. And by earlier this summer, I mean, like July, right? He probably missed the big window.
Right?
And he's probably got himself a $600,000 house, six and a quarter, something like that. And the school district's attractive and all the other stuff. And he's like, well,
Mhm.
somebody wants to pay me 719. I'll take it. Put it on the market 719, reduce to 699. Nobody took it. His agent told him, "Look, you're at 625,000 dollar house all day long." He's like, I got 2 3/4 on my house. If somebody wants to overpay me to move, it's fine." And he never sold, and he never got a whiff of it. And
Right.
so, you know, obviously, and you can talk a little more about people's motivations when they come to market. But he literally, and he wouldn't pay for staging or any of this other stuff that we've talked about will help you sell. But he was strictly in this situation that is, if somebody wants to overpay to take me out, I'll sell. Otherwise, I don't care. So he had
And when was
multiple
this?
reductions.
When did he put
This
that
was
on the market?
this was July, and he came off the market uh, literally in the last 2 weeks, which is why I ended up talking to him, because we were just kind of checking in with him to make sure that he didn't need us to do math if he was getting close to a sale, trying to figure out what's next. And he's like, you know what, we had activity for the first 3 weeks or a month, and even then, after we reduced the price, nobody came through, and we're just going to let the listing expire. And maybe we sell next spring, or maybe we don't. But to his credit, he's on a 20 year at 2 3/4 or 2 7/8. He could
Yeah.
stay there forever at that financing. So on one level, he might be right. And I know we're a little off track. So I want to circle back to your discussion about price reductions. Like at the end of the day, he's a guy with multiple price reductions, but he's not even motivated to sell. So what's
Yeah.
going on in this price reduction situation is my question to you.
Well, I think, obviously when interest rates went up, that takes a lot of buyers out off the field, right?
For
Just
sure.
because
I mean,
they just can't
on,
afford
on,
the
on
home.
both sides, right? So the
Um, bo-
people who can't afford the home because rates are up and payments are up, and then the
right.
people who don't want to come to market because their existing situation is financed below current market, they're
Yeah.
all out of the market now. The market's this big.
Yeah. So that's really it. I mean, when interest rates go up, inventory is still very low. Interest rates go up, more buyers are forced off the field and they're on the sidelines now waiting for interest rates to go down. By the way, our interest rate right now at about 7.5% is right around where it was in 1970 whatever. And if you had waited back then for interest rates to go down, you would have waited 22 years. So, if you
You
can,
know what? I've seen that circling on social media. It's true for sure. And it's
it is.
certainly better than the argument that rates are historically average because prices are not historically average, right? We've seen
No,
that
they're
one
not.
too. I do think that if you're in a situation where you're trying to wait for interest rates to come down, again, like I've said, if you could guess that, you should be doing something else for a living.
Yeah. Yeah. So back to your question, I think basically the reason why we're seeing price reductions is that's my dog in the background. The reason you're
Nice.
seeing price reductions is because less buyers, less activity, houses stay on the market longer. There's a rule of thumb, the longer you're on the market, the farther away from your list price or first ask price that you're going to get.
Right.
So market time is like it's like acid to the list price of your home. The longer you're on the market, the more that market eats away at your list price and the more likely you are to have a price adjustment. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of price adjustments because houses are staying on the market longer.
One of the things I've seen, Larry, is in talking to clients, especially clients like this one I mentioned earlier today, where they're um, in a situation where they're saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna come on the market high." Now, this guy's an exception because he truly was like, "Hey, you could overpay me, and I'm gonna sell, or I don't care," and he didn't. But lots of people come on and they target a price range, right? Whatever it is. Let's say it's
Right.
an average $400,000 house. They're like, "Hey, I want to come on at 440 because if somebody wants to overpay, I want to get that person." And
Yeah.
and what do you say to people who are like trying to fish high for the first 30 days that they're on the market? Because I think that that's a mindset people get into, that they're going to catch this one magic buyer who's going to overpay, and they lose traction with dozens and dozens of people who might be interested at the right price.
Yeah. So to answer your question, that is the exact opposite of what you should be doing when you're selling your home. The price is king in real estate. Price is what drives buyers to your door or drives them away from your door. If you overprice your home, you're going to end up just lingering on the market. As you linger on the market, buyers are going to start asking themselves, "Hey, why isn't this home selling? It looks like a nice home. Why isn't it selling? What's wrong with it?" And all these questions start popping up in buyers' minds. You're going to get less showings when you overprice your home. And the key to pricing a home is to price it right at market value or even just a tad under market value. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but listen, the more people that you get interested in your property from the get-go, from the very first time you come on the market, from that first day, or that first day you start pre-marketing it before it comes on the MLS, the more people you can get interested, the higher your price is going to go, because if you can get a few people interested in it and get a couple of offers, 3, 4, 5 offers, you're going to drive the price up. The opposite of that is if you overprice your home, you're going to have less showings, more market time, and likely you're going to be adjusting your price. It's the exact wrong psychology when you're selling your home.
So, Larry, ultimately, what we're getting at, I think, is this idea. Correct me if I'm wrong. That if you overprice even by a little, you could basically get a stink on the house in the market that is going to cause you to lower your price and not get your buyer.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have a property on the market now where I told the seller to put it on. Let's start. It's a 2 flat, and it's in the city. It's actually a nice little 2 flat with a finished basement, so it could actually be a 3 flat. It would be a great property for an investor or a house hack for someone to live in one of the units like we've talked about and rent out the other 2 and basically live
Sure.
there for free. So when we first talked, and this was,
Give the viewers the address, Larry. What the heck?
well,
Get some
it's
pub on this house.
Well, because we're going to be doing a price adjustment and some other things, I'm just simply going to say that it's on Keeler in Chicago, and it's a 2 flat with a finished basement, with a bathroom in the basement, with a bedroom in the basement. It needs some work, but with a little bit of work, this could be a little
Okay.
gem for an investor to add 3 more doors to their inventory. But here's the thing. So when I first spoke with the seller, I said, here's what I would suggest. Let's put it on the market at 259.9 and see what happens. I think that's a little high, but and this was 6 months ago. I think that's a little high, but let's see what happens. Let's test this market because investors are hungry for more doors in their inventory, and there's not many out there. What did Mr. Seller say? And he's absolutely a fantastic guy. I love this guy. He's
Right.
just a great guy to work with. Um, and he said, "Well, I was thinking more 299." And I'm like, I mean, look, we can do it. I'll put it on for 599 if you want, but here's the
Right. That's
problem.
40% higher. I mean, that's the other thing at a 259 property, right? $40,000 is a lot of money. It's
It's a lot
less
of money. It's
money
a lot of money.
proportionally to a $600,000 buyer.
Oh my God, it's a lot of money, and it's a lot of money for an investor who's going to go in there and probably drop another 40 grand in the property. Easy.
Right.
So we put it on at 299. We dropped it to 284. And we've had 40 showings. We've had 40 showings. We've had a lot of showings, right? And a lot
Yeah.
more in the beginning than we're having right now. And we got another showing today, right? But I keep telling him, I said, I'm going to call him Paul. Paul, we've had 40 plus showings and no offers. What
It's the
what is
price.
that telling you? I
You're
mean,
right.
what's
It's
that telling
100% the price.
yeah, you're just priced too high, but oh, someone's going to come along, someone's going to bite. And I'm like, no, I don't think anyone is. And we've been on the market 6 months. So even if
Right.
they do bite, they're not biting at our current price of 284.
No, they're going to buy it where the real market price is. I mean, let's not kid ourselves.
Exactly.
And really, look, ultimately, every now and again you hear a story, but it's always some story of, well, my brother's cousin's, co-worker's nephew found a house and put it on the market, and got 50 grand more than he should have. So right, it's always one guy that nobody actually laid eyes on who got this
Right.
maximum overpriced bid. It's
Right.
ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, and, listen, that is not the market we're in right now, but I will say this, if you have a house that you're putting on the market, house, condo, townhome, whatever, and it's in
Right.
a sought after area, and you've listened to your agent, you've staged it properly, you've got great media deliverables for the internet, you're really, um you're checking off all the boxes as far as everything you need to do to get that house sold quickly and for the most amount of money possible. If you do that, you will sell this house fast. I'll give you an example. I put a house on the market in Lamont. We put it on
Right.
for $369,900, which was about $40,000 higher than any house in that subdivision had ever sold for. This was about 6 months ago. And
Okay.
the market was a little more worked up than it is right now. There were more buyers in the market, at
Right.
that time. We sold that in the PLN for $395. So on the market for $369,900, we sold it for $395. It appraised out, no issues. And I'm sorry, it was $469,900, and we sold it for $499,900. And
Right.
but they did everything I suggested they should do. They staged the property right. They removed some furniture to open up the floor space, make it look bigger. They had beautiful hardwood floors. I told them, pick up the area rugs because
Right.
people love shiny hardwood floors and it makes your house bigger. Take
Right.
off the pictures in the small hallway that leads to the kitchen. Take the pictures off the wall because it encloses that hallway. So take that off, it opens it up a little more. So there's things you can do, including to the exterior of the property. So they
Right.
listened to everything and we sold it for 35 grand over list price. So that is still happening out there. But
Right.
you got to want it, you got to do the
Well,
things.
look, I think that the biggest thing that you're telling me here, Larry, that I hit, and I know you're saying now if you do the things, but you know what the things are, and the point I'm trying to make when I say that is the following: um, if you're going to bother to hire somebody, if you're going to bother to sign a contract that's going to pay them 5% for selling your home, no matter what they
Mhm.
do with that afterwards and where the lawyers get involved, um, listen to them.
Say that again. I
Why would
lost
you
it.
not listen to them?
Well, it makes no sense. It's like going to a doctor and your doctor says, take this pill, you're going to do well. If you do it, you're going to get rid of your sniffles and whatever else you got going on.
Right.
And go home and take the pill for 7 days and you're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. And you go home and you just keep drinking and you don't take your pills. And that's not going to work out well for you. Hey, we got a comment here. Oh, it
Nice.
says no audio and video. Interesting. Okay, so we'll have to check that out. But yeah, so it's you gotta.
That's gonna hurt our TikTok numbers.
Yeah, well, we're live on TikTok and we're doing okay there. I'll have to check on the others
Oh, where's the comment from?
after the show. The comment is coming from, it doesn't say where the comment's coming from,
Huh.
but
So, Larry,
that's
the new technology, just for the people who are watching us, the podcasting technology, are we going to be able to basically broadcast to more than just the TikTok platform like we did when we were at the radio station?
yeah, so right now we're broadcasting to YouTube. We're broadcasting so on YouTube we're at Larry Shakman. So at LarryShakman. And as a matter of fact, let me just put this little banner up here and we can let everybody know where we are broadcasting from. There you go. So you can go to Facebook and check us out at Launch My Listing. You can go to YouTube and check us out at Larry Shakman, or on LinkedIn, you can check us out also at Larry Shakman. And there's the actual link for it right there, LinkedIn and whatever
Nice.
other letters you're seeing there. But yeah, you could really follow us on all of these platforms. And every week we're going to have some really good conversation about things going on in the industry. So I want to jump to something real quick here.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was at a home inspection yesterday at a property in Wheaton, and I met with the buyer's agent, who was a great agent, very nice agent. This is our listing. And it's actually my partner's listing, Michael Lafito's. But so we worked together. I met the agent there and her home inspector and his team. They got the home inspection done in about 2 hours or so. Great house. I don't think we're going to have any issues. But so this is where I want to get back to that Sitzer Burnett suit and all these copycat suits that are coming
Right.
along now. The same plaintiff's attorney in the Sitzer Burnett suit filed another lawsuit on behalf of some other sellers against different brokerages. And at the same time, there was another lawsuit that was filed against buyers. A
I saw that.
pretty substantial one. So here, I'm going to give you a real life example of why this is not going to change anything, in my estimation. Okay, so right now, as we know, just to kind of wrap this up in a little ball, the way commissions typically work for real estate agents is the listing agent negotiates a listing commission with the seller. So let's say it's 5%. That 5%, he then tells the seller, what we're going to do is we're going to take that 5%, we're going to split it in two and offer 2.5% to the buyer's agent or buyer's brokerage to bring their buyers to the table and motivate them to come and look at your house, right? And now those two commissions typically get split up between the agent and the brokerage.
Right.
So the total commission is right now and for decades has been paid out of the proceeds of the sale. So if you're buying a $500,000 house, the commission is baked into that, and the seller will pay their or the listing agent will get paid by the seller 2.5%, and the listing brokerage will pay the buyer's brokerage or selling agent the other 2.5%. That's typically how it works. Really, when you get right down to it, the buyer is financing the full 5% commission. Am I on target so far?
Yes.
Okay, so right now, all the commission gets financed by the buyer with that $500,000. Of course, if they're buying a $500,000 home, they're putting $50,000 down. Okay, so they're financing $450,000, but somehow, some way, that 5% commission is factored in. They're financing that commission.
Well, it's baked in the cake of the transaction.
Exactly. So what the Sitzer Burnett lawsuit says is, well, buyers should be able to negotiate with their buyer's agents, and they should be able to come up with their own whatever they're going to pay their buyer agent, whether that's 2%, 2.5%, 3%, and the seller should not have to pay the buyer's agent. That's really what this is coming down to. And what the plaintiff's attorney is suggesting is that it hurts the buyer and seller because they're not able to negotiate separately for the commissions they're paying. So it drives up the commissions, it drives up the price of the home, and so on and so forth. How do you feel about all that?
You know what? I feel like the answer to your question is the lawsuit is kind of ridiculous. Let's not kid ourselves, but I do see that the point of, maybe it's not entirely transparent to the buyer as they look at the seller transaction is arguable, which is where my point the last few months has been, right? Which is,
okay,
ultimately, we're just going to change the paperwork and carry on as normal once all this is said and done. But at the end of the day, uh, and we've talked about this before. There's no way. Look, the bottom line is this: the net result, as we sit here today, for a home buyer is, hey, we might be able to reduce the price of your house by 2.5 or 3%, but then you're going to have to pay cash to your agent in the amount of 2.5 or 3%. I don't think everybody gets that.
Right. So what it really comes down to is, let's say this lawsuit, after all the appeals, and that can go on for 2, 3, 4 years, who knows, before this is written in stone and, you know, before anything actually changes. So what
Right.
that means is, if this actually does go that way, and now the buyer pays their buyer's agent and the seller pays their listing agent, the buyer is now not only going to have to come up with that. Let's say they're putting 10% down on a $500,000 home. They're not only going to have to come up with that $500,000, they're going to have to come up with an additional $12,500 off of the
Right.
in addition to their down payment. And most buyers, frankly, cannot do that. They're scraping together the down payment. Am I right?
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Okay, so now they have to come up with this additional $12,500 to pay their buyer's agent. Now, here's the real life example that I was talking about, and why I think none of this is going to change. So the agent I was talking to yesterday, her son last year, so he was living in a duplex. He sold his duplex. And so recently he noticed that his neighbor, where he used to live, it put their duplex on the market for $425,000. And they
Okay.
did it with a brokerage, a flat out discount brokerage, where they put your house on the market for $500 or a couple $100 or whatever,
Right.
and you handle everything else. When they put the house on the MLS, they put it on the MLS with a $100 co-op commission to the buyer, which to the buyer's agent.
Okay.
So what that means is, that buyer's agent, if they've worked with this buyer for 2, 3 months or whatever, they're going to get paid $100 if that
Right.
if that buyer, their client that they've worked with all these months, buys that property, or worked with all these weeks, whatever it is, they're going to make $100. And if they don't have an agreement with the buyer, for the buyer to pay them directly the other 12,400 or whatever it's going to be, then they're going to make $100. Well, here's what happened with that listing. It was on the market for 30 days. It got no offers. It got 0 showings, or very few showings. And I know this because he talked to his neighbor who had the house on the market.
Right.
And in 30 days, they immediately put a 2.5% buyer's co-op commission on the listing, because they were getting no action at all. Nobody was showing the home. And the buyers that were coming through the home that were unrepresented just didn't understand the whole process. I mean, they weren't represented. And the reality of it is that the listing agent has a fiduciary responsibility to get that seller as much money as possible. They are never going to be representing the buyer unless it's a dual agent and both parties agree to that. But at
Right.
the end of the day, if you're a listing agent, your fiduciary responsibility is to your seller and to get them as much money as possible. So the bottom line here is that the seller found out real quickly that if you offer no buyer co-op commission, you are going to see a drastic decrease in the number of showings, and you're going to see a decrease in the offers you're going to get. Because if you don't think buyers are going to take into account that they now have to pay in addition to what they're paying you, and which is also, you're going to be paying your listing agent out of what they're paying you. So in effect, the buyer is financing the listing agent's commission, right? In
Sure.
addition to that, they're coming up with an additional 12,500 out of their pocket. You're going to get lower offers because these buyers are going to factor that in to their offers every time.
You're 100% right. Look, Larry, like I said, I think we're a little in the weeds, but the point remains. The lawsuit is going to. I just don't think that the lawsuit is going to have a net effect on the real estate business when all is said and done.
Yeah.
That everybody is in a panic about. It's just not. And at the end of the day, you've got to turn around and keep financial incentives in place. Now, is it going to change the paperwork? Is it going to change the math? Maybe a little. The paperwork for sure. But the other thing is, it's the sort of thing that nobody on a consumer end cares. Like we care, right? And I
Mhm.
think that ultimately, if it shakes out the way you're describing, sellers will care when they wake up and go, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And if they roll a bunch of changes out in the marketplace and then all of a sudden activity slows to 18% of what it was the year before, from these levels, which is probably 18% of what it was 3 years ago, um, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And then people will be like, how do we solve this problem? So, but for now, I don't think there's a but. Look, I talk to buyers all day, every day. They can barely come up with the down payment and the closing costs that they have. I mean, I literally, I'm working on a transaction for a buyer now that's a no money down transaction, meaning no money down on the purchase price of the house. He's still got to fund his closing costs. He's
Right.
scraping those together.
Right.
So at the end of the day, are we going to find it? I think the argument in the
And I'm
lawsuit
dealing with the
ultimately,
buyer in the same situation. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm dealing with the
yeah,
buyer in
no,
the same situation.
so it's just not going to happen. I think ultimately, the lawsuit is gonna, and I've said it before, it's gonna get the lawyers paid, and then we're gonna change the paperwork a little bit, and then we're all gonna carry on. And now that we're in the middle of it, it's just annoying.
Yeah, I think it's a distraction now, but I think at the end of the day, I don't think a lot's going to change. And I think my conversation with this agent yesterday really underscored that because the seller found out very quickly i- nobody's going to work for free. It's just not going to happen. You
Yeah,
can't
well, as they
mandate
say,
that.
F around and find out, right? Like that's where
Yeah,
we're at.
yeah, you,
So, Larry, let me ask you this: as it
yeah.
comes to commissions, as a seller and as a buyer, and understanding things, would there be a book that I could find all these issues listed
You
so that I
know,
could not make these mistakes?
it's very fortunate that you brought that up and kind of fortuitous because if you look at the bottom of the screen right now, so I recently wrote a book called The Top Tens of Real Estate. Here it is right here. The Top Tens of Real Estate. 32 top 10 real estate lists, proven, absolutely proven to help you maximize your profit when you sell, buy, or invest, right? And if you want, you can go buy the book at trustedagentUSA.com, where you can save a ton of money if you buy, sell, or invest. Our sellers and buyers save literally thousands and thousands of dollars, whether they're buying, selling, or investing. TrustedAgentUSA.com. Shameless, promotion. But you can
Right.
buy the book. But I'll tell you what, if you don't want to buy the book, I'll give it to you for free so you can save some money on the next home you purchase or buy. Just text book to 630-921-0611. 630-921-0611. Text book. I'll send you the ebook for free. And I guarantee you, if you're an investor, there's things in there that'll save you money. If you're an investor in the Chicago metro area, I can show you how to save 50% on your title insurance costs. Now, just to break that down a little bit, so the card rate for a home that's 200,000 and under, which is a pretty typical investment kind of price, right? Investors are typically looking for homes between 150 and 200. They're not looking for $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 homes. They're looking for more bread and butter first-time home buyer homes, whether they're going to rent them out, hold and rent, or
Right.
flip them. So where was I going with this? Remind me.
Yeah, you know what? You got off the beaten path. You were talking about the book.
Okay, so I will show you how to save 50% on your title fees, on your title insurance policy fees. So where I was getting
So
at,
$200,000 house, Larry. What am I going to save?
the card rate on that for a title insurance policy, I believe, is $2,090. I will show you how to save $1,000 off of that. If you want to find out, just text title to 630-921-0611. Just text title and I'll show you how to do it. You'll keep $1,000 in your pocket on a $200,000 purchase. That's a decent amount of money that you could put towards your closing costs.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
Oh,
cool,
cool,
what else
man.
is going on in your life? Tell me.
That's it, man. That's it. I'm going to get coffee in a few because we got to make this thing happen here at the Hawkeyes Rutgers game today. So
Hawk, who are they playing?
Rutgers.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay. So, they'll
Yeah.
beat Rutgers, right? I mean, how good of a
You know
football
what?
team can
They beat them. They'll beat them 12-10. We'll see how it goes.
Hey, let's real quick before we wrap this up, let's go through some of the what's dynamics of the market right now. Okay.
Yep.
So there's still a lot of geopolitical craziness going on out there. And, that affects the market. It affects people's mood to buy or sell, their motivation to buy or sell. But like my partner, Michael LaFido always says, life moves real estate. That's what moves real estate, life. If you have to move, you have to move. If you have to sell, you have to sell. You're going to do it regardless of all the crazy geopolitical minutia that's going on around you, right?
Absolutely true, Larry. I'm going to share with you a little bit of a blue story from a guy I used to work with many moons ago, and he used to say in a market like this, he said, "Look, nobody comes home, uh, finds their spouse in bed with somebody else, and goes, you know what, good so and so, we're getting divorced just as soon as rates go down." Life moves real estate. Things happen. People get sick. People get divorced. People turn around, change jobs, transfer cities. All these things happen no matter what happens with interest rates.
Yeah. Well, the good thing with the mortgage market is in the last week, everything except rates were up. You had purchase apps were up. You've had refi apps were up. And that's a good thing. They weren't up a lot, but they were up,
They,
2%.
they, they were up a smidge. And I think, look, if you were kicking things around and we got a nice little rally like we did last week, that'll stimulate some activity. And I think that, the other thing is we are starting to see just a little bit of refinance activity out there. What's starting to happen, Larry, which I think is an interesting conversation to have, is we have had people start to look at the idea of getting rid of their 3% mortgage by refinancing. And you might be like, why would anybody do
The
that?
refi rates are up too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, refi rates are still 7.5. It's the same mortgage rates. The thing that's happened that I think is interesting is as the world has kept moving, um, to the point I just made, and life happens, people go out and they buy a new car at 8.99% that they can't really afford on 60 months, right? Because it's $1,000 a month car payment.
Right.
They run up $35,000 in credit card bills, which are now requiring $1,000 a month. And if you have an extra $100,000 in equity in your house versus 3 years ago, you might be able to consolidate and deploy that equity by refinancing and say,
Mhm.
well, look, my house payment was $2,000, my car payment was $1,000, and my credit cards were $500 more for 3,500. But I can refinance it all at 8%, spread it back out over 30 years, and get it down to $2,200 a month. $2,300 a month. And so the total monthly outflow change and the chance to redeploy that equity without selling is a thing that we've started to see some inquiries on. I'm being interested to see how things shake out. That may be a thing as we start looking to the 2024 market.
Hey, you know what? If we can get interest rates somehow to go down even another 0.5%, you're gonna see another tick up a little bit,
I,
and you
I
may be
think if
right.
we see, I think if we see rates in the sixes, we'll start to see some more action on both sides of the business, right? The purchase
Oh,
business and the refinance business.
I will say this based on the conversations I've had with, buyers, sellers, and, other people we talk to in the industry. I truly believe that if we get into the 6s, you're gonna see some
Yeah,
serious activity because those that have 5% and 4% mortgages, they're not going to be so gun shy about putting their homes on the market.
correct. I
And
agree.
the buyers are gonna flood the market again, but I'm warning all of you, when that happens, everything is gonna change again. Everything's gonna change again. So you're gonna be back to that thing where you're standing in line, to look at a house. You're gonna be back to that multiple offer situation, and the reason for that is, all of a sudden, if we get down to 6.5%, everyone's gonna think, "Holy cow," you know, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months ago, we were at 8% going up to 8.5%. We're at 6.5% or 6.75% now. I got to jump on this now. And God forbid
Right.
they go
No, it'll be
lower, I can
it'll
refi it.
be it'll be a frenzy for sure.
It'll
So
be absolutely a feeding frenzy, and I think people need to, take that into consideration because right now, you could actually do much better negotiating on the price of the home you're buying than you'll be able to once we're in that feeding frenzy, and here's the thing, you can never renegotiate the purchase price of the house that you buy, but you
right.
can absolutely always refinance into a lower rate, whether that's 2, 3, 4, or 5 years down the line. So I think
You're
people really need to keep that in mind.
I agree. Larry, as we start looking forward to next week, I think we should spend some time between here and Wednesday. Maybe you and I do this on Monday. But we should talk about kind of coming up with a playbook for people who want to buy between now and year end, whether it's buy an investment property, whether it's buy your house, take advantage of, I think, what's going to be a very, very harsh 6 weeks or 2 months for home sellers. And if you're a buyer, you can take advantage of that. And so I think that
Absolutely.
we should put some thought into that conversation, but really start running a playbook over the course of the next few weeks to be like, hey, I'm a year end buyer. How am I going to do this?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I have 2 listings coming on the market. I've got one coming on the market in Naperville. It's a 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath, completely renovated, um, condo with indoor parking, pool, really nice place right in the middle of Naperville. It's gonna be coming on at 219.9. I have another place coming on the market in Buffalo Grove in the Adley E. Stevenson High School District, which is a very sought after area. Adley Stevenson, I think, is the number 5 rated high school in the whole country. So that area is very sought after. That's going to be coming on for somewhere around 770. And I'm going to get back to what I said earlier. If you have a sought after property and you price it right, and I think both of these properties are priced more than right, you are going to get a lot of action on them. You might be on the market a little longer than you would have been last year at this time or when there were more buyers in the market. But if you do things right, you're still going to sell your home for absolute top dollar in the shortest amount of time possible. So,
Absolutely.
that's the key to this. Listen to the people you're working with because it really, really matters. It really does.
Cool. So we'll playbook that out next week.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna wrap things up here. I'm gonna let you go watch Rutgers beat Iowa. I'm kidding. I'm joking. They're not gonna tell your daughter I was joking. I'm just kidding. They're gonna win.
You're assuming she's watching.
Yeah, it's gonna be seven to
Nice.
six. I'm sure of it.
Uh, Nice. All right, my friend. Good
All
talking
right,
with you
bud.
this week. We'll talk
Yeah.
soon.
And we'll see all you guys
Bye.
on Wednesday. And Dylan, we'll see you on Wednesday too.
Thanks, Larry.
Okay, bud. All right, everybody. So we're going to wrap things up, but I want to end on this note. So it's super important to know and trust the agent you're working with. And I'm going to give you an example of that. So just in this last about 3-day period, I've been negotiating with an agent that was I'm representing the buyer. The listing agent was extremely difficult to deal with. We are obligated as agents to disclose if we are related to the seller. She did not do that. We absolutely cannot add anything to a contract. We cannot add our own verbiage to a contract. So for instance, the 7.0 contract that we all use as real estate agents, we cannot just write things in that contract and add clauses and things like that. We can't do it. This agent, after the contract was fully executed, put her own little clause on top of the final signature page. And in addition to that, that's a huge no-no. Real estate agents cannot act as attorneys. So you cannot put little clauses on a contract. You cannot do that. You can fill in the blanks on a contract, but you cannot put your own little clauses on the signature page of the contract. And in addition to that, we are obligated, once a property is under contract, fully executed agreement, we're obligated within 48 hours to put that property on the MLS as contingent inspections, contingent attorney review period. And those both last somewhere between 7 and 10 days. That also didn't happen. My point is this: it is super important to work with an agent that has experience, knows what they're doing, and is going to represent you, in the most aggressive manner they can. So when I pointed these things out to this agent, she was like, "No, I'm not putting it on the MLS contingent. And if you have a problem, have your broker call me." Well, I didn't do that. We just moved on and we found another property. So the point is that the transactional process in real estate is changing all the time. And make sure that you're working with somebody that really, really gets it. They understand the entire breadth of that transactional process, because you can get hurt if they don't. Also, if you're buying a house, I would say, something that every agent should do if they're representing you, when you put that offer in, they should be giving you a net sheet that shows you exactly what you have to bring to the table when you're purchasing that property, including all title costs, including attorney costs, including anything that you're going to have to bring to the table in addition to your down payment. So like, for instance, if you're buying a property for $200,000 and the card rate on that property for your title insurance policy is, let's say, $2,090. That's an additional $2,090 you're going to have to bring to the table unless you call me or text me at 630-921-0611. Just text title. And if you're an investor, or whether you're a owner occupant looking for a home, investor, whatever, I will show you how to save 50% on your title insurance costs. Just text title to 630-921-0611. Now, final point I want to make is, if you guys are looking to save, whether you're buying, selling, or investing, go to trustedagentusa.com, click on any link there, and start saving. Our buyers, any home our buyer purchases. They're going to get a 0.5% rebate back on the purchase price of that home. So for instance, on a $400,000 home, you're going to get $2,000 back that you could use at closing for your prepaids or closing costs. That's a pretty good amount of money. It's going to come close to paying for your title insurance policy, which is probably about $2,300 on a $400,000 property. I'm not looking at the card right now, but I'm going to guess it's $2,400 for a $400,000 home. You're going to get 0.5% back on the purchase price of that property. So that $2,000 can go towards paying some of your title costs, paying your attorney, paying any of your prepaids, or any of your closing costs at all. That's a big deal. You're also, if you're a buyer working with TrustedAgentUSA.com, if you're a buyer working with one of our trusted agents, which are the top performing agents in your area, they have to be in business for a minimum of 3 years to even work with us. You are also going to get a free 1-year home warranty that's going to cover everything in your home, including appliances. So these are all very big deals. For our sellers, it even gets better, because if you're selling your home, we're going to list your home for as low as 1.5% if you're buying with us as well, or 2% if you're not. And if we bring the buyer to the table, there is no buyer agency commission. So your total commission would be anywhere between 1.5% to 2%, which is a minimum typically of a 66% savings just for that. Now, if you buy your next home with us, you're also going to get a 0.5% rebate back on the house that you're purchasing and a free 1-year home warranty. It's a tremendous saving. So go to TrustedAgentUSA.com, TrustedAgentUSA.com. And remember, if one more time here, if you guys want the book, The Top 10s of Real Estate, there it is, Top 10s of Real Estate. If you want that book for free, just text book to 630-921-0611. I'm going to send you a link to get that book free of charge. And I guarantee you, you will find many things in there that if you're buying, selling, or investing, you will save money if you just check off some of the boxes that you'll find in that book. So that's going to wrap it up for this Saturday, the Real Estate Radio Show podcast. We'll be back on Wednesday at 11 o'clock for a half an hour. And then, of course, next Saturday as well. So you guys on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, follow us, like us. We have some great things coming up. We have a very special broadcast with Margaret Gear coming up, who is the owner of Chicagoland Home Staging. And we're going to do a case study on a property, a $2.8 million property that she staged. And I'll give you the whole story behind that, because that's kind of a neat story in terms of why it sold, how long it was on the market, when it sold, and why she staged it like she did. This is an 11,000 square foot property. So keep an eye out for that. And remember, like and follow and comment. You know, when we're on the air here, we're streaming live. So we want to hear from you guys. All right, you guys, have a great Saturday. Remember, it's 11/11. It's your lucky day. Give me a call if I can help you, 630-921-0611. Have a great, great Saturday. Have a great Sunday, and we will talk to you again soon.